Adavars. In this video, we're going to be learning about Dhrupad through the poetry of Tansen, Raskhan, and Amir Khusrau.
The name Dhrupad comes from a combination of two words, dhruva, fixed, and pad, lyric. There are four banis, or four distinct styles of Dhrupad, that carry with them also aesthetic and social identities. Dhrupad's roots lie in Gwalior, the capital of the Tomar Rajput kingdom. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the Tomar kings patronized music and the arts, carrying on a dialogue with contemporary sultans and Muslim nobles, and developing new genres and styles that combined elements of Persianate and Indic music. It's noteworthy that the first treatise on music composed in Hindi, the Man Kutuhul, or Heart's Intrigue, was composed or commissioned by the king Man Singh Tomar around 1488. Gwalior continues to be a center of Dhrupad musical learning till today. The three principal types of compositions that one finds in Dhrupad are Chautal, Dhamar, and Sadara. Chautal is the most common type of composition in Dhrupad, and it has four parts, which we will see in a moment. The types of poetry in Chautal is most often praise poetry, which is dedicated to a deity, or often to a ruler. The second most common type of composition in Dhrupad is Dhamar. Dhamar is set to a 14-beat tal, or rhythm of the same name, Dhamar. It's somewhat lighter in mood than the Chautal, and the type of poetry most commonly used in Dhamar is poetry about Radha and Krishna and their love play, including their love play at the time of the festival of Holi. Sadara is a composition set to a 10-beat jap tal, and like the Dhamar, it's thought to be a lighter type of composition than the Chautal. Interestingly, many of the poems that are used as a base for Sadara are compositions by Sufi poets. The four parts of a Chautal composition are Sthai, Antara, Sanchari, and Abhog.
One interesting distinction between Dhrupad and other genres of Hindustani classical music is that Dhrupad is usually sung in a masculine voice, whereas Khayal and Tumari are most often sung in a feminine voice.
Before we begin, take out your copy of either Rupert Snell's The Hindi Classical Tradition, a Braj Bhasha reader, or Samuel Kellogg's A Grammar of the Hindi Language. Remember that both of these books can be accessed for free online. Before we begin, I would also like to mention that you can listen to recordings of musical performances of the poetry that we'll be reading in this video. The first recording of Zia Mohiuddin Dagad and Zia Fariduddin Dagad is simply titled Dhrupad and is available from Country and Eastern Records. The second recording of Mohinuddin Dagad and Aminuddin Dagad is titled North India Vocal Music and is available through Smithsonian Folkways. As we read through the poetry, I'll be making reference to four types of words that are found in Hindi. The first type of word is called tatsama. Tatsama from Sanskrit means the same as that, just that. In other words, it's a loan word taken directly from Sanskrit and used in Hindi, with no phonological sound changes and no changes in spelling. The second type of word is called tadbhava, and tadbhav means of the same character as, in the nature of. And these words are words that have developed organically, even if they've come from Sanskrit. In other words, they've gone through phonological or morphological changes over time. So they are related to Sanskrit words, but they have gone through certain changes in their form. The third type of word is deshi. meaning of the country, of a place. And these are words that have no relation to Sanskrit. They've come from local languages. Finally, the fourth type of word that we find in Hindi, this word is called Videshi. And Videshi, as you know, means foreign. And this includes words not only from English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish, but also words from Persian and Arabic and Turkish. This does not mean, of course, that these words are now foreign. These words have become completely part of the Hindi language.
Miyan Tansen was not only a great poet, but also a famous musician. First at the court of the Tomar king, Man Singh at Gwalior, and later at the court of the Mughal emperor, Akbar. He came to be known as one of Akbar's 9 gems, or Navratan.
Tansen is thought to have acted as a bridge between the world of courtly poetry and song on the one hand, and the world of devotional poetry and song on the other, as suggested by the narrative context and the visual layout of this 18th century painting, in which Tansen visits the saint Haridas in Vrindavan, the land of the god Krishna, bringing the disguised Mughal emperor Akbar with him. The verse attributed to Tansen is metrically a little unusual, and so I'm going to set aside for the moment the question of its poetic meter and go straight into the lyrics and their meaning. The first line begins, Shubha Muhurat, Shubha Ghadi Dina. Shubha, you probably know, means auspicious. Muhurat is a tadbhava form of the Sanskrit term muhurt. Muhurt is a time or a moment or an occasion which is usually auspicious according to the Hindu calendar or according to Hindu astrology. A muhurt is essentially an auspicious time for doing a particular act or activity. Ghadi, on the other hand, means here time or moment. And din is the perfective conjugation of the verb de, to give. And so it would be equivalent to modern Hindi, diya. He or it gave. So he or it gave a shubh muhurt, an auspicious occasion, a shubh ghadi, an auspicious time. The second line begins with the word bato. You will recall from Snell's introduction to classical Hindi that masculine conjugations of verbs tend to end in the vowel o, whereas in modern Hindi, they tend to end in a. So bato would be a perfective conjugation of the verb bat, to sit, and would be equivalent to modern Hindi bata. He or it sat. Takhat. Takhat is an early Hindi pronunciation of the noun takht, a throne or a cushion. And you'll recall another rule that Snell mentions in his introduction, that in early Hindi, conjunct consonants, 2 or more consonants together, tend to get split apart. And so we see that here, that takht becomes takhat. The kh and the th are separated. And also the kh from that we find in Persian and Arabic simply becomes kh in early Hindi. Aj today means today. Delhi is simply an alternate pronunciation of the name for the city, Delhi. And you should note that Delhi is roughly the same pronunciation and spelling as one finds for the name of the city in the Perso-Arabic script. The word pati here does not mean husband, but rather means lord or master. Nara, you'll find in the dictionary, means man or human, and re is a vocative word. It's a way of addressing someone, and we'll speak in class about the exact meaning and also the exact emotion or relationship suggested by the use of those terms here in this line of poetry. In any case, the line when we put it all together, means Baitho takhat aj Dehli pati nar re. He sat on the throne today. The pati, the lord of men, pati nar, if we take these two terms together, or Delhi pati, the king of Delhi. And again, I'm going to leave aside for the moment so that we can discuss in class what the nar and the re are doing here at the end of this line of poetry. But we should note for the moment that this way of addressing a ruler on the part of Tansen could be considered problematic. It's a little bit too informal and familiar. Let's move on to the next line, the third line, which starts Khand Brahmand. Khand. Khand is equivalent to Khand, and Khand means a part, a direction, or the whole, all of the parts. And here, in this particular context, it means all of the parts. All of the parts of what? All of the parts of Brahmand. And you'll know from the dictionary that Brahmand means the whole world, the whole universe, all of existence. And here I'm going to mention that often in early Hindi verse, because it's so dense and so compact, all sorts of words that would let, all sorts of syntactical markers like me, par, se, etc., postpositions and other words that would tell us about the relationship between the other words in the sentence are left out. And so here I'm going to simply tell you that Khand Brahmand is probably locative here. It is probably in the whole world, okay, or in the whole universe. But we'll move on. Hira, lal, naga, moti. Hira, a diamond. Lal. Here, lal means ruby, which is also called manikya in Hindi. Nag is a general term for a jewel, and moti, of course, means pearl. And so we have here a diamond, a ruby, a gem, a pearl in the whole world. And so in this line, Tansen is praising Emperor Akbar, his patron, by calling him the diamond, the ruby, the gem, the pearl of or in the whole world or all of existence. Finally, the last line, Motiyan ko chatra sisa dharon hain. Motiyan, we know from the previous line, means pearls, and here it is plural. However, in modern standard Hindi, when we have a plural feminine noun followed by a postposition, we like motiyan, it ends in iyo. So in modern Hindi, a noun, feminine plural noun in the oblique like this would be motiyon because it's followed by ko. But here, because this is early Hindi, it's motiyan. Next, this postposition ko here, if you've read Snell, you'll know that ko in this context does not mean ko as in modern Hindi, but means ka. Right? It gives some kind of genitive, or it denotes some kind of genitive or other relationship between two terms. And here it means motiyo ka chatra. Chatra, you'll know from the dictionary, is a parasol, an umbrella. It's basically a piece of cloth or sometimes made of other material, a dome-like object, which is kept above a ruler. And sisa. Sisa is a tatbhav form of shirsha from Sanskrit, which means head. Dharho. Now, it's important to know this word dhar. Dhar in early Hindi is used quite frequently. It means to hold, to take up, to take on, and it's often used for things like clothes or for personal effects. And here, dharon hain is a present perfective conjugation of dhar. It means has taken up, has taken on. And taken together, the words in this line, motiyan ko chatra sisa dharon hain, mean he has taken on or it has been taken on. What's been taken on or positioned? It's a chhatra, a parasol of pearls, right? And what has it been taken above? Oh, it's been taken above his head. So, in other words, he has above his head a parasol or a dome of pearls. Tansen's verse is a type of prashasti poetry. Prashasti is a style of poetry that praises someone, usually a patron who is usually a ruler of some sort or another. And we'll find that prashasti is quite a common form of lyric in the Dhrupad genre of music.
This brings us to our next poet, Raskhan. Raskhan was a Muslim devotee of Krishna in the 16th century. It's widely believed that Raskhan fell madly in love with a young man in Delhi, but his friends and well-wishers convinced him to take that intense passion he had for that young man and direct it towards the god Krishna.
The verse by Raskhan is composed in a variety of the Savaya meter or Savaya chanda. This particular variety is called Kartik, and in each line of the verse you'll find 8 ganas or metrical feet, and in each gana are 3 syllables, a guru or heavy syllable followed by 2 laghu or light syllables. Let's see how this plays out in the first line of the verse. Manusha ho to vahi raskhani basao braj kokul gav ke kwarana. Now, manusha, let's take that part. That's the first 3 syllables. Ma, guru, nu, laghu, sha, laghu. All right, so heavy, light, light. Let's see the next 3. Ho, to, va. Heavy, heavy, light. Hi, ra, sa. Heavy, light, light. Ka, ni, ba. Heavy, light, light. So, bra, ja. Heavy, light, light. Go, ku, la. Heavy, light, light. Ga, va, ke. Heavy, light, heavy. Gwa, ra, na. Heavy, light, light. So we see that the first line of the verse generally follows the model of the Savaya. However, there are some errors, and these errors may have been introduced as corruptions as the text was transmitted either orally or in writing over time. Now let's see here what is the proper way to recite the line. Now remember that when you recite a line like a Savaya, which is a Varnik chand, that you need to put more stress on the heavy syllables and less stress on the light syllables. So let's try. Manusha ho to va hirasa kani ba so praja gokula gava ke kwarana. Now let's take a look at what the verse actually means. Let's start with the first line. Manusha ho to vahira sakani, basao braja gokula gava ke vakwarana. Manush, this is a tadbhava form of the Sanskrit word manusya. Ho is the first person conjugation in the present subjunctive mood of the verb to be. Now, if you're not familiar with the present subjunctive, you'll want to spend a few minutes looking at the explanation of the present subjunctive mood in Rupert Snell's introduction in the classical Hindi tradition. Because this mood, this verb conjugation, comes up again and again in early Hindi poetry and song, and we're going to be encountering it over and over again throughout the quarter. Now, the present subjunctive is analogous or is somewhere in between both the present tense in modern Hindi and the subjunctive tense. So it's something, it can be translated like I am, or I shall be. So keep that in mind. As we read further, you'll see from the context that here, hon means I shall. To is just the Hindi to, a conjunction. Vahi, just that, vahi, just that same. Raskhani. Now, this obviously is the name of the poet. However, let's take a moment to see what it means. It consists of two words, rasa and khan. Rasa is juice or essence, but it's also an aesthetic sense that's communicated through a work of art, literature, or music. And it's also the rasa of love, the essence of love. Khana, on the other hand, could mean Lord, as in Khan. However, here it means khana as in a mine or a treasury or a storehouse. So a treasure of the essence of love. In other words, it's an epithet of Krishna himself, Raskhan, the poet's Ishtadeva, or preferred deity. And we'll see that this verse has something to do with Krishna. Basal, this too is a present subjunctive conjugation in the first person of the verb bas, to dwell. So basal, I shall dwell. In modern Hindi, we might say that as bas jaun. Braj, of course, is the region around Mathura in the modern-day state of Uttar Pradesh, and is believed to be the region in which the god Krishna pursued his lila, or divine play, as a child and as a young man. Gokula is the name of the village in which Krishna is believed to have lived. Gaon, of course, is village, and ke, postposition. Gwaran. Now, Gwaran, if you can't find this in the dictionary, remember the phonological rules laid out by Rupert Snell in the introduction to his reader. You'll recall that ras and las are often substituted for one another. And so you'll eventually find that Gwaran is a form of Gwala, Gwala being a cowherd. The na at the end of Gwaran is a plural oblique marker, meaning that this is plural Gwala, the plural cowherds, and it's being put in apposition to something else. In other words, in modern Hindi, there would be a postposition after this, Gwalon ke beach, or Gwalo ke saath, or Gwalo ko, or Gwalo ke paas, or some other postposition. As I mentioned earlier, early Hindi poetry tends to be very dense and telegraphic, and so postpositions are often left out. But the na at the end of Gwaran tells us that we should infer that there's some kind of postposition or relationship there, that this is in the oblique case, and that it is plural. So cowherds. Now let's look at what the line means in its entirety. Manush hon. If we have to supply the if here, if I should be a human. In other words, to provide some context, if I am to be reborn a human, to, then, vahi Raskhani basao. Then that very same Raskhan, the poet, may I dwell, basao. So may I, the same Raskhan, dwell, Braja Gokula Gav ke Gwarana. So Gwarana, the cowherds, and we know that there has to be some kind of postposition here, and so we can infer that it might be Gwaran ke beach, among the cowherds. Which cowherds? Gokula Gaon ke Gwaran, the cowherds of the village of Gokul. And where are they? They are in Braj. So again, with Braj as well, we have to infer that it's in the locative case. In other words, we have to infer that in modern Hindi, we would say Braj mein or Braj ke andar. So, to take the line all together, if I should be reborn, a human, then may I dwell, as the same Raskhan, in Braj among the cowherds of the village of Gokula. Now let's look at the second line. Jo pashu haun. Jo here does not mean the modern Hindi jo, but rather if. It's equivalent to the modern Hindi agar. Pashu, an animal. Haun, again, the first person in the present subjunctive, if I shall. So jo pashu haun, if I should be or if I shall be an animal, in other words, if I shall be reincarnated as an animal, ton is just a variant pronunciation of to. Kaha bas mero. Kaha here could mean several things, but in this context it means kya, the interrogative. Bus. Bus is a tadbhava form of the Sanskrit vash, power, control. And you'll recall from Rupert Snell's introduction that va often becomes ba in early Hindi, and sha often becomes sa. Mero is simply the possessive pronoun mera. Kahan bas mero. What control do I have? Churao also is in the first person present subjunctive, from char to graze, so we could translate that into modern Hindi as either charata hun or charao, I shall graze. Nit, continuously, sada. Nanda Krishna ke foster father ka naam hai. Nanda is the name of Krishna's foster father. Ki dhenu. Dhenu, you'll know from the dictionary, is cow, guy, but not just any cow. It's a cow that has recently given birth and so is able to produce milk. Finally, manjharan. Manjharan is used adverbally here. It means ke beech, in between, among, or me. And so taken together, the last line reads something like this. Jo pashu haun, should I be, shall I be, an animal, ton, then, kahan bas mero, what control would I have, or do I have? Charao, may I graze, nit nand ki dhenu manjaran. May I graze manjaran among dhenu, the milk-giving cows, nandaki, of Nanda, nit, continuously or forever. This verse by Raskhan, which is actually part of a longer lyric, falls into the textual genre of bhakti, which bhakti, coming from bunj in Sanskrit, to share, is roughly translatable as devotion in English. And along with prashasti, bhakti is a very common theme in lyrics that are used for the purpose of singing in Dhrupad.
This brings us finally to Amir Khusrau. Amir Khusrau was a famous poet not only of Hindi but also of Persian in the late 13th and the early 14th centuries. He was also known as a disciple of Nizamuddin Aulia, one of the first Chishti saints of the subcontinent.
Now that you have some experience reading, understanding, and translating Dhrupad lyrics in early Hindi, try translating the following lyric by Amir Khusrau on your own.
Thank you for joining me for this journey through the genre of Dhrupad. If you'd like to know more, check out these sources in Hindi and in English.